Hello, my name is Matthew Whitbeck. I'm the Dining Service Director at Chester Village, and we're here today to show you how we're going to make a holiday menu that you could do in the comfort of your own home. So our first soup that we're going to be doing is a gingered pumpkin soup. First we're going to start off with a little bit of butter. We'll put this over in our pan. While that melts, I'm going to add our white onions. And here's our ginger. We have freshly minced ginger. Now we chose to do this recipe because it's a little different than your traditional pumpkin soup with the nutmeg and the cinnamon, and it's more of a savory dish that you can have with a nice hearty bread. We're actually going to top it with sourdough Gruyere croutons. So as that's simmering, what we actually did prior for time constraints is that we used these sugar pumpkins right here. Usually for this recipe that we have, we do about 2 sugar pumpkins. They're a lot smaller, but they have the sweetness, and they are nice local pumpkins that we got from our local farm. So let me just see how this is doing. So we want to cook these onions till they're about translucent. Alright, so now while we're waiting for the onions to get translucent, I'm going to add a little bit of garlic. Again, this is a savory dish, so a lot of the times you don't incorporate garlic or with pumpkin soup, but in this recipe we are. So we're almost there with the translucent onions. So as you can see, we have the onions and the ginger kind of incorporated there with the garlic. And we're almost there to where we're actually gonna, what they call deglaze the pan with a little bit of sherry. So we're gonna add about 1/4 cup of sherry. And I know you can't really tell on the camera right now, but you can really get the smells with the ginger and the sherry, and and the garlic is very pungent, and you're really starting to see how it's going to incorporate with each other. So as that reduces down, we're actually going to add some russet potatoes. This is actually used for a thickener for the soup as well. So it's going to have vegetable stock, our pumpkin pulp, and potatoes, and that's going to be basically the body of the soup. So while that's going, I'm going to take just a spoon. We got the pumpkins. They roasted. What I do is cut them in half, flip them over. We roast them in a pan with a little bit of water on the bottom for about 45 minutes until they get nice and soft. And they're going to be tender to the touch, and that's when you know they're done. So I did about 2 pumpkins for this recipe. Again, pumpkins are in various sizes, so you might want to choose your pumpkins. But you probably want about a good, a quart to 6 cups of pumpkin pulp for this recipe. Not to mention at home, you might want to you also have the option of using canned pumpkin, which you get similar flavor out of it as well. can do one more here. So as you can see here you got the pumpkin pulp and you have the ginger and the russet potatoes. So we're gonna let that simmer for a while until the potatoes get a little tender, fork tender, and then we're gonna add the stock, orange juice, and go on from there. Now as you can see, our potatoes are fork tender, almost fork tender, a little al dente, and I just added a little salt and pepper, and we have the pumpkin. So it's a nice color there. We're just gonna let that go. We're gonna add a little citrus with some orange juice. And then we also have a vegetable stock. So you can use vegetable bouillon. Here at Chester Village, we make our own veggie stock with the renderings from all our vegetables. And so we're just gonna add a little bit of this. And we're going to bring that to a boil, then reduce to a simmer. Again, you want to make sure the potatoes are nice and soft, because the next step, we're going to actually blend this together. A lot of the times in the kitchen, we use a hand immersion blender, but for here in the kitchen, in one of the apartments at Masonicare, we're going to use our Vitamix blender. But these recipes that we're going to show you today, just show that, in this beautiful kitchen that we're able to kind of cook a home family meal, a kind of comfort food, but a little upscale that you can impress your guests and enjoy a holiday dinner in the comfort of your own apartment. Stock. So while we're waiting for that to soften up the potatoes, we're going to make our sourdough cheese croutons. So here we have some sourdough bread. We cut it up. We actually let it sit out overnight so it kind of gets that crispiness to it. And what we're going to do is we have our sheet pan here. I just have the oven heated up to about 350. You're basically melting the cheese on the sourdough. And so this is going to be a little olive oil. And this is to, again, garnish the soup. But this recipe would be good if you just had a nice baguette or something that you pick up from the store. Or from your fresh local bakery. So we're just going to pop this in the oven. You can tell here that the soup, before it's blended, is going to have a nice rich orange color. And while I wait for the croutons, we're going to let that simmer, and right after we'll blend it into the emulsified to make it the soup. All right, so now we have the potatoes. They've been simmering a while with the pumpkin, and we're just about ready to puree. Bring this over, and so you can kind of see, what it looks like now. The pumpkin's, really kind of liquefied, and the potatoes are in there again as a thickening agent. So I'm going to carefully put this back here and grab our immersion or our Vitamix. All right, so again, this is very hot, so you want to be very careful when you're doing this at home. get is that nice rich color with the russet potatoes and the pumpkin. And we are going to add it back to the pot. And we'll do our next batch here. You can really smell the ginger. It smells really fresh. And with the orange juice, got a little citrus in there. And the russet potatoes give it that nice color. Add it back to the pot. So now if you look, you got this great color and consistency, and it's great for a nice holiday meal. So I'm just checking on the croutons. What I want to do with that, even after the cheese is melted, you want to take it out and let cool for a few minutes so the cheese gets a little coagulated. And then I'm gonna grab my soup bowl. And we're gonna get a little sage. Sage always reminds me of something, throughout the holidays. Goes in a lot of holiday meals, turkey, pork. Crush a little sage on top, and then with our Gruyere croutons. And here is our gingered pumpkin, sage, and croutons, Gruyere crouton soup.